Hey, Dad, this is your. Why do I start that way? You taught me that, didn't you? Like, I have to tell you who the fuck I am, as if it were not self evident. I am your son, Joel. Does this really need to be said? You always started messages that way, didn't you? Like, hey, Joel, this is your dad. As if I didn't know. That's weird. Um, but I'm going to admit this is my first night back. Getting buzzed. I'm drinking. This is my third beer I'm drinking now, and I've smoked some weed also, so I'm a little toasty. And I thought of something that I wanted to ask you about. You remember when you and Jared and I went to Key Lime to resurface the tennis courts? Is a specifically different trip to Key Lime. We were actually working. But I remember that you didn't make work shitty there at Key Lime like you did many other places. I didn't decide to make this video to give you shit. As not Don't get defensive. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I really wanted to make this video for is that I remembered on that trip, um, somehow I had a lot of quarters, and I used to go down and play Pac-Man at down like by the office. There's like an arcade there, and I seem to remember thinking that you didn't know that I would do this. Like you would think I was doing something else, like I had to go down to the tiki bar or something. I don't know what it was, but I just remember like thinking it was a secret that I would go in and play Pac-Man. And I remember getting the most amazing feeling from that. Like it was like fucking crazy, like one of the most intense emotional experiences of my life. I can remember the feeling of getting in that arcade and playing Pac-Man and feeling like it was a secret from you. And so I'm wondering, like, did you know? Like, because I'm just thinking you were, making the trip not so shitty. You didn't like, you know, yell or be shitty on the tennis courts. And then I had all these quarters, so I thought you must have probably somehow been the source of these quarters. So I'm just wondering, did you know I was playing Pac-Man? That's my question. That's the whole point of this video, is just to ask you that question. Did you know I was playing Pac-Man? And do you know where I got the quarters? I assume you gave them to me, but I don't remember that either. It's just like this weird memory of like having quarters and sneaking off to play Pac-Man. Also, I don't know if this was a different trip, but I wonder if you remember this too down at Key Lime. There was this time that supposedly a bunch of gas went missing, and then I said I saw it looked to me like a father and a son had parked their boat and they were loading all this gas onto the boat. And at the time, it struck me as unusual, even though I had like not wasn't really that old. I don't know how old I was, but it didn't immediately make me think they're stealing. But I was kind of like thinking this is odd that they're just putting all these cans of gas on their boat. Do you remember that? Did you ever see when Chris Farley was on Saturday Night Live and he would interview like famous people, and then like instead of asking like questions, he'd just be like, "You remember that time you were in that movie and you were like a spy, you did this thing," and the person's like, "Yeah, I remember that." And Chris Farley's just like, "That was awesome." And I just reminded myself of that. Like the whole point of this video is like, "Hey, do you remember this?" What else could I ask you if you can remember? I mean, I could think of a lot of things to ask you. You remember when you were living in those apartments in Pennsylvania, and I went down to the pool, and some kid like got all mouthy with me and punched me, and I took some swings at him, and then I really scared him, and then I came home kind of crying about it because it was really weird. Do you remember that time I was trying to close the dumpster lid, and you were watching from the window? And I like try and run and push it up, and it would swing way up, but not quite make it over and fall back down. And you told me after I tried like four times that you were just watching from the window, just like cracking up. Oh, what else? You remember that time that cop pulled us over, and right away you started getting in the truck, like That was hilarious. Like, nobody ever does that shit. But as soon as you park things, start again, and the cop's like, stay in your car, stay in your car. And I'm just picturing him back there, like, pointing a gun, but I'm sure he wasn't. But he was, like, very aggressive, like, just stay in your car, sir, stay in your car. And you knew he was pulling you over because you didn't have lights on the trailer. And so you were just coming out, like, yeah, I just wanted to come take a look at it, see if it looks bad, you know? And then after you talked to the cop, he was like, I'll let you drive that way if you want. Like, whatever, you know? He just walks away. Oh man, what else? What else? Do you remember that time you came to Del Mar and you were in my room and it was after I'd stopped working for you and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was a bunch of balloons in my room at the time and you were kind of basically saying to me like, sorry if I ever did anything that made you not want to work for me. Um, but I'd really like you to still come. I don't know, something. It was like a gentle approach. And I remember that. And I like, I don't know. And things really completely changed at some point. You used to yell and yell and yell and yell. And at some point, you just like, I'm not going to do it anymore. But this one time, I was like 16 and we were on this tennis court. And well, you had just finished the tennis court and there was like a dead squirrel or chipmunk or something, and for some reason I kicked it out onto the tennis court, and you were like, "Come on, Joel!" You were like really pissed that I kicked this dead animal on the tennis court, and at some point you like grabbed my arm like with this like kind of squeeze of like taking charge, and I thought about it in that moment. I knew at that time physically I was pretty sure I could take you, and I just thought I'd let you get away with that, but sometimes I thought I wished I'd just kind of grabbed his arm right then, just let him know, you know? I'm sorry, this was not funny. I didn't mean to be shitty. Like I said, I was not making a video to make you feel guilty. That was not my intention. Just like different memories pop up, you know? I guess I still have a little bit of feelings about that one. Um, Check out my arm. Look at this spot. You see that? That's a bruise from jumping up and climbing up on somebody's overhang, and it was basically like an I-beam, and I hung my arm over it. Look how red it is. Isn't that crazy? It looks like a burn, but that's a bruise. Um. Anyway, yeah, Dad. What else do I got to say? You know, I got that message from you about if you know the kid and the lady, the teacher, whatever, and he's like, who's married? The woman who's licking her ice cream cone, who's biting her ice cream cone, who's sucking it, and the teacher says the one who's sucking it, and the kid says no, but the one who's wearing a ring. But I like the way you're thinking, you know. And then also you made that comment on my thing about the way that truck could like drive into those things, turn it into a tank. That's fucking awesome. And you're like, and just 3 Bitcoins. And I knew at the time that was about $18,000, but I didn't comment on that either. And so I'm wondering if you like felt, you know, like slighted. Like I wish Joel had responded to at least one of those things, if not both of them. And I just want to tell you, you didn't respond to the last message I sent you. And so if you do think that, you're a fucking moron, because the last message I sent you was kind of like this one. It was like a long, well thought out video, not like a piece of shit comment on some technology or sending us a dirty joke. You know, I'm not saying those weren't good things, but I'm just saying, like, if you're feeling slighted, just remember how much you slight me all the fucking time. And I'm not really in for having lopsided relationships. So if you want to have a relationship, I suggest you step up and take some risks, you know, just like I do, and communicate with me, because without communication, what the fuck is a relationship? And if you don't want a relationship with your son, you're fucking insane. That's the dumbest shit I ever heard. You can't possibly go see a therapist and tell them, I don't want to have a relationship with my son because he's not the way I want him to be, so I just wrote him completely the fuck out of my life. If that's how you feel, you're gonna have to own that you're a fucking terrible mess of a person, you know? And because I got tons of friends, I'm not a bad guy, And I think it's time you take responsibility for your own emotions and recognize that all the time that you've laughed at me for saying that emotions are important, you got to recognize you don't control your own, and that's why we're not able to have a relationship. It's not about me, it's about you and your emotions. So I think it's high time you own that, recognize it, and and then just admit that, if we're not going to have a relationship, it's because you can't control your emotions. I think I'm in a pretty great relationship with my emotions these days, most of the time. Not really giving anybody any like shit for being a different way than I want them to be. So you're pretty much living in the past if that's what you're afraid of. And also remember that you fucked me my whole life, want me to be something different than I am. So you think I want you to be different? You set the example first. So I tricked you into getting to this point. You realize I made a lot of funny, heartwarming references, and then I just laid into you. That's what I'm observing going on. So I didn't plan any of this, though. I promise you. Just what's coming out of my mouth is just what's coming out of my mouth. You're my old man. You're my dad. You disown me. You're not a Jehovah's Witness. You know how tough time I have explained that to people. I'm like, they're like, hey, what's your family like? I'm like, well, I don't talk to my mom, my oldest brother, or either of my sisters because they're Jehovah's Witnesses. And they're like, oh, what about your dad? I was like, well, I don't talk to him either, but he's not a Jehovah's Witness. That's just his choice. He's just decided not to have a conversation with his son, not have a relationship with his son at all. And people are like, I can almost appreciate the cult not talking to you, but your dad, and then they think terrible of you. And you should be upset about that. Oh, it's so funny. All right, Dad. Look, man, like I said, I didn't plan any of it. Just speaking my heart and my mind, I guess. Um, Truth be told, what I feel more than anything else is like, I feel really sad for you. I feel bad for you. Like, I feel like it can only possibly be true that you're really unhappy, you know? And you right now, I think you're sitting there watching, I'm like, he thinks I'm unhappy? I'm very happy. But I feel like what I mean about happiness is like a soul self level. Like if you could imagine, like, are you happy in your organs? Are you happy in your spine? Are you happy in your joints? Are you happy in your mind? Are you happy in your heart? Are you happy in your belly? You know, I feel bad for you. I see like you must be a really lonely person. And I'm kind of lonely sometimes, but I have a cat now, and I have more friends than I ever have had before. And I have at least 4 women that want to date me right now. So it's not bad to be Joel, but I'm sad that you don't have a relationship with me. I'm sad about that fact. And if there's something I can do to fix that, I hope you'll let me know what it is. Because I would like it to be different. And I would like to ask you that if you think there's a way we can have a relationship and you think it's important that we do, that also you try. Because I would like to see you try. I'd like to feel that. I'd like to feel like you wanted to be connected to me, like I want to be connected to you. So I'm going to stop it there and see if I can figure out how to upload this shit from my fucking phone, because I usually don't do it this way. I love you, Dad. And maybe talk to you sometime. It's up to you.